This is your host, Danny, and this is Do You Know from English Plus Podcast. Do you know what opera is? Do you like it? Well, it's not everybody's cup of tea, I know, but how much do you know about the opera? Whether you like it or not, opera as an art form stood the test of time. But even if you don't like it, how about learning some more about opera? That's coming next. But before we do that, let me remind you that you can find a lot more on our website, EnglishPlusPodcast.com. The link is in the description. Go there, find what we're talking about today, and find out more about other things as well that we talk about in English Plus Podcast. And also, you will find in the description 2 links that will take you to Apple Podcasts, where you can subscribe to receive all our premium episodes that we are releasing every day. Or if you don't have Apple Podcasts, or if you just prefer to become a patron of our show on Patreon, you can become a patron of English Plus Podcast on Patreon, get all our premium episodes, and very soon you will also be getting our English Plus magazine. With that being said, let's start talking about the opera. The lights in the theater dim and the orchestra plays. The curtains swing open to reveal a stage full of people. They start to sing. You are at your first opera. The sounds and sights are spectacular. But what is opera all about? Opera is a kind of drama. It tells a story. The words of the story are set to music and sung. Operas are performed on a stage in a theater or opera house. Most operas have lavish scenery and costumes. An orchestra plays as the singers sing. A conductor directs both the orchestra and the singers. Many operas tell very dramatic and emotional stories. Some are tragic. Tragic operas usually end with the death of the hero or heroine. La Bohème and Madame Butterfly are famous examples of tragic operas. And both of these operas were written by Giacomo Puccini of Italy. Other operas are comic and end happily. A famous example is The Marriage of Figaro by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart of Austria. Now, what about the elements of the opera? We'll talk about that next. Opera depends on both words and music. It works best when the music expresses the same feelings as the words. The words of an opera are called the libretto. Sometimes the composer writes the libretto as well as the music. Sometimes a different person writes the libretto. Opera composers often highlight a particularly important or dramatic moment in the story with an aria or a duet. An aria is a song for one singer. A duet is for 2 singers. Through the words and music of an aria or duet, the singers can express the thoughts and feelings of the characters they play. Sometimes several people sing different tunes at the same time on stage. This is called an ensemble. The different characters may sing the same words, or they may sing different words, perhaps expressing disagreement or conflict. Many operas also have a chorus, a group that sings together. The singers sometimes speak some parts of the libretto. Through these spoken lines, the composer can give the audience information about the plot between arias, ensembles, and choruses. Many operas start with a short introduction by the orchestra. This is called the overture. The orchestra usually plays the overture before the curtain goes up to reveal the stage. The overture is often made up of tunes that will appear later in the opera. And now, how about opera singers and their voices? Let's learn about that next. Singing is at the heart of opera. The singers play the characters in an opera. In addition to singing accurately and with feelings, singers must also be good actors. Opera singers are grouped according to the range of their voices, that is, how high or low they can sing. The highest female voice is the soprano. The lowest female voice is the contralto. The mezzo-soprano sings in a range between the soprano and contralto. The highest male voice is the tenor, and the deepest is the bass. The baritone sings in a range between tenor and bass. Over the centuries, composers have come to associate different types of voice with certain parts in an opera. Heroes and heroines are usually tenors and sopranos. Villains and figures of power and majesty are usually baritones or basses. So that is, in a nutshell, what the opera is. I hope you like our episode for today, and I hope you learned something about the opera. Maybe I've even encouraged you to go on and check out one of these operas, especially the ones with famous singers like Luciano Pavarotti as the tenor or Maria Callas as the soprano. And of course, there are a lot of other great opera singers. So with that being said, I will have to remind you again that you can find more on our website, EnglishPlusPodcast.com. The link is in the description. You can also subscribe to our premium content on Apple Podcasts or become a patron of English Plus Podcast on Patreon. And then you will have all our premium episodes, and coming soon, you will also have all our English Plus magazine issues. So with that being said, this is your host, Danny. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you next time.